Hi friends, welcome to the channel Learning R is Fun. At last we have come to the end of this series on base R. I have tried to provide all essential prerequisites for you to pursue data science through R programming suite. This video winds up the topic and we will begin our next series on R packages and practical use of R with our next video. I thank all of you who have taken time and interest to watch these videos. May I request you to post your comments so that I can address any shortcomings in my future videos. In our last two videos, we have seen how we process strings in R using functions provided in the base R as well as from string R package. In this session, we will try to understand terms like classes, objects, attributes in R, which we have been using throughout this series of videos. At the outset, I wish to bring to your notice, for exploiting R for data science work, you need not have, I repeat, you need not have an in-depth knowledge in these topics. I am only trying to provide some basic insights into this in this video. In object-oriented programming as known today, class is like a blueprint specifying certain parameters and methods. Methods are nothing but functions having a special meaning. For example, if fruits are considered as a class, then there are attributes like color, size, smell, weight, and taste associated with it. Methods could be tasks which prepare juice, pulp, some dishes out of the fruit, etc. If you take orange as a class, then it inherits from the fruit class. Now, if we have a dozen of oranges, these may be considered as dozen objects of orange class. Now, if we make a basket of oranges as a class, then a basket with a particular package details and a serial number is an object of this class. However, we must note that this understanding of a class contributing to objects was not followed when R was developed based on S language. Instead, they used a concept of generic functions. Basically, it is using only polymorphism principle of the object-oriented programming. That's why you will find the objects of base R don't have a class attribute. Let us understand this generic function call. R uses a generic function with a single statement use method. The job of this function is to locate appropriate function to be executed which is meant for the object which is passed to it. That is passed to the generic function. The greatest use of object-oriented programming in R is through print methods, summary methods and plot methods. These methods allow us to have one generic function call, which based on the type of the argument calls different functions. If you take a print function, pass an object vector or array to it or a data frame to it, then you get it printed in different ways. This we have seen in the previous video. And implicitly it uses different functions. In R, there are three object-oriented systems, S3, S4 and reference class, also known as R5, each with its own peculiarities. I have given a link in the description if you want to try your hand in making classes of various types, various class systems followed in R. S3 is R's first and simplest object-oriented system. S3 is informal and ad hoc. S3 is the only object-oriented system used in the base and stats packages, and it's the most commonly used system in CRAN packages. S4 is provided through methods package. By default, it is attached in R. The underlying ideas are similar to S3, but implementation is much stricter, and use of a specialized function for creating classes and methods, etc. is provided for. Reference classes, also known as R5, behave in the style of OOP languages such as Java and C++. This model for OOP differs from the functional method implemented by S3 and S4 classes and methods, in which the methods are defined for generic functions. Methods for reference classes are encapsulated in the class definition. In object-oriented programming of R language, encapsulation means binding of the data and methods inside a class. Other class versions are also available in R through packages like R6. We will be studying packages like dplyr and Shiny, in which R6 classes have been exploited in the background, and therefore we need not deal with them directly. Objects in R can be categorized as base objects and object-oriented objects. Base types do not form part of an OOP system. If you apply is.object function to a base object, R will reply false. Here, what R really means is that they are not the object as understood in the OOP system. For example, data frame is an S3 object, but a column of the database which becomes a vector is a base object. Base types are mostly manipulated using C code, but they are important to know about because they provide the building blocks for the other OO systems. All objects in R have a class. Some have them implicitly, which have no class attribute. Object-oriented objects have a class and class attribute. All objects have a type. For simple vectors, type may be numeric, logical, character, list, matrix, array, factor, and data frame are also other possible values. We can make use of length and type attributes of an object. Now one very important statement to remove your worries. In summary, you don't require the knowledge of S4 or 6 reference classes for exploiting tools of R for data science. You may require them when you want to develop your own classes and objects with special features suited to your domain of work. Before we go to RStudio, let us see what are attributes. Objects in R can have many properties associated with them, called attributes. These properties explain what an R object represents and how it should be interpreted by R. Class, dime names, TSP for time series object, levels for factor object are some of the examples. Many objects in R, such as arrays, matrices, and data frames, have many common attributes. There is a standard way to query object attributes in R. For an object X and attribute A, we refer to attribute through A of X. In most cases, there is a method to get the current value of the attribute and a method to set a new value of the attribute. With this background, let us now go to RStudio. As usual, I have got the code already in the editor. We will start off with a package called sloop, which helps basically to explore and understand object-oriented programming in R. So, install that packages. Sloop is what the first command, and once you have done that, we can use library sloop. So, since I have already installed it, so I have done this library sloop command straight away. Now let us have a difference between base objects and OO objects. 1:10 is, we know, is going to give a numeric vector, basically integer vector, and let us ask whether that is an object. R tells false. All along we have been saying that this is a vector and object and all. Now it's suddenly you say it's false. You may be surprised. That's why in the slides also I have explained it is not an object in the sense of object-oriented programming. Okay. Now let us ask what is the object type using sloop package. It says it's a base type of object. So here at least we have got some solace. It does not say that it is not an object and all. It says at least it's a base object. Okay. Empty cars is a data set. Let us ask, is object empty cars? Yes, it says it's true. And we will ask what is the object type. We are getting it is S3. So empty cars data set, basically that is an object of the S3 type of object oriented class. Now we will ask what is attribute of class attribute of 1:10. ATTR function basically takes two arguments. Here you should say what is the attribute and you should give the object here. Then this of this will be found out. So here when we ask, it says null. Basically there is no class attribute for the base objects. For empty cars, however, it says it's a data frame. So it's a data.frame. Normally data.frame function is something we use to create a data frame, and the class is also data.frame. Now let us create a data frame, X first element, Y second element, and store it in the df object. Now we will ask what is the object type. It is saying it's a S3 object type. We will ask the first element alone, that is the first column, what is the object type. It says it's a base. So basically a data frame is a S3 object, whereas the individual column is a vector and it's a base object. Now let us ask about the second element. Second element is also being base object, it says, but we will convert this as a factor because these are letters, so we don't have any repeated values. Nevertheless, we will convert this as a factor, and then we will ask what is the object type. It says it's an S3 object. The factor is an S3 object. Okay. Now let us try to understand the generic function concept. Let's say print. Print is a function, basically generic function. We have used print number of times. Now we will ask methods of print. Here you get a list of print functions. When we give an object to print function, that object in turn will go to the generic method, use method, and that use method will tell which method is to be chosen from this. So you got so many types of print functions already created. Out of this, one will be selected according to the object we are passing. Okay. Now to get it more clear, please look at this table in the editor. Say if the object is data frame, the class is a data frame. Okay. Now when I am using a print function, it's a generic method. So when I use print df, then what happens is it is going to call print.dataframe function. There is a print.dataframe function here. Print.dataframe. Here. 72nd in the list, it is print.dataframe. This function will be called. So generic method dot class. Generic method is print and class is data frame. So print.dataframe is the function. The naming of the function which is to be called is also based on this format. So let us now try to create an S3 type of object. We will create an object orange. We will give a class fruit, and we will create a generic method fruit info, and then we will use this generic method dot this class. Same concept to call give information about the orange. So we will start with the first step, create the list object that will serve as a template as well as object. So we will create now a list wherein we will give name is orange, size is 10, weight is 100, description is I am very sweet. Now this is the list, and this list will store in orange. Okay. So let me just clear the console. Now let me execute this. So an orange list has been created. It is having 4 members. Okay. We will create a class attribute, that is fruit, and give this attribute to the orange object. So orange object is now going to have a class. Name of the class is fruit. Okay. Now let us ask what are the attributes of orange. We have got names. Names is one attribute. Here I am getting name, size, weight and description which are there already in the object. And then there is a class which is a fruit. So now we have understood this orange object. Now we can ask also what is the orange object. So we get orange is a list basically. So first is name, second is size, third is weight, fourth is description, then attribute is class. So list data is available. Now let us create a generic function. Creating a generic function is very simple. You give the name of the generic function, like print we are now giving fruit info, and we are creating a function, therefore function keyword is there. We have to pass an object to it. So the object will be object of this fruit class. So we'll simply say object here. We can put X also. And then what we are going to give inside is use method. And what is the method? The method is the fruit info. The same name here of the generic method, that is what we have to give here inside within quotes. So this is the generic method. So let us create the generic method. So generic method has been created. Now what we'll do, when the generic method gets the fruit object, then what it should do? It should call fruitinfo.fruit function, just like we have seen here. Print, and if the df is passed, df is having a class of data frame, so data frame function is to be called. Same way here, fruit info, and it has to call the class that is fruit. So fruit info.fruit is the function which it has to call. So this function is now defined here, function object. Now what I am going to say is j object dollar size, because we know this object has got an attribute size, that multiplied by object dot weight. So there is a size here, there is a weight here. These two attributes have to be multiplied and it is to be divided by 20. And this is to be stored in a variable j. Then I am making one cat function. We know this all objects, whatever we give inside will be concatenated and made file. Ultimately, we get a statement out of this, string out of this. I am, then object name, object dollar name, then comma, then new line. I can give, then j. J is what? Whatever calculated value, dash liters of juice and then 1 backslash n, then object description. So I am so and so, that is I am sweet or whatever is written, that will come here. So the whole thing will be given as output, and that is going to be the work of the fruitinfo.fruit function. Okay. So now let us execute this function. So fruitinfo.fruit function has been created. Now we are ready with the class and method. Class is fruit and method is fruitinfo.fruit. See, fruitinfo.fruit is not a function, it is a method because an object is going to call it using use method. Now the actual benefit of what we have done so far. Fruitinfo, I am passing an object orange. So let's see the result. I am orange. I can give 50 liters of juice and I am very sweet. So this is the information this fruitinfo function, when orange is passed to it, is giving. To appreciate this, we will create another object, pineapple. All the attributes are same, only values are changed here. So let me create a pineapple object now. Now I am going to, for this pineapple object, I am going to give the same class, that is fruit class. Now let me call the function, generic function fruitinfo, and pass the object pineapple. Now I am pineapple, I can give 450 liters of juice and I have a special flavor. So The same generic function, depending on the object, it has taken the details of that object and it has given the results. So now we have seen one example of how to create a generic function and then how to make use of it. This is what is being done in S3 and S4 types of classes, and since these are all done in the background, we need not really know much about this. To get an insight of this S3 and S4 type, I have given this example. With this, we will wind up this session about classes and objects in R. These underlying constructs in R are like bedrocks for R language. However, a cursory knowledge we have obtained in this session is adequate for practical explorations to data science. With this video in the series, we have covered base R. We will commence our next series, Practical R, from next video. Till then, bye from me. Thanks for watching.